Our journey began back in Destiny 1 when we were woken by our ghost near a former Russian space facility known as the Cosmodrome. After venturing for a bit, heading to the city and learning of the battle against the darkness, we quickly began to get spied on by a mysterious exo who we first seen when we got our ship.
We can come back for them when you're ready. Let's get you home.
So after stalking us on the moon, we eventually came face to face with this character on Venus, where she told us that the Vex were the biggest threat of all and that we needed to find the Black Garden and wipe out the Black Heart.
Find the Black Garden. Rip out its heart. Only then will your traveler begin to heal.
Today we're going to discuss what the Black Garden was, what happened to it when the Red Legion invaded, and if it's possible to go back there in the future. My name's Evade and let's jump right into it.
We're back on Mars. The shroud of darkness is lifting, and light returns to the traveler. The speaker is calling us home.
The Black Garden is both a place of beauty and wonder. The garden itself seems to be housed in its own realm where an entity linked to the darkness resides, and we call this the Black Heart. So the Vex worshipped this thing as they thought it was a god, that it would allow them to evolve their species and hive mind even further, but of course, we put a stop to that at the end of the campaign. Now in Forsaken, we get a description from Aldrin on what he thought the garden was. Now, there's also various cards where he and another character go inside the garden and relay stories with that as well, but let's talk about this specific conversation with his sister Mara. So it starts with Aldrin bringing back a flower from the Black Garden and giving it to Mara so she can plant it in their own domain and kind of make it their own, right? So he gives her this flower, which can actually be seen near Harbinger's Seclude, by the way.
Pink asphodelia. It's a cultivated strain said to descend from the flowers in the Black Garden. Among our people, Prince Aldrin was the first to walk the garden, and the first to bring these back. Legend has it that these asphodelia were originally cultivated from red flowers gathered in the Black Garden. You can see they've lost their vivid color.
And directly after that, Mara asks Aldrin if he's seen the heart. He begins thinking about a bunch of other stuff, then Mara sort of shakes him out of it so they can discuss, and here's what they say. Aldrin, Mara shaking him, she does not ordinarily touch anyone. Did you see the heart? It seems the most natural thing in the world that a garden should have a heart. The Vex infest the place, he says. It gives them something they crave. It grows them toward what they want to be. You didn't answer the question, Mara says coolly. It's a perfectly sensible observation. It's the strangest thing Aldrin has ever heard her say. Whatever the heart of that place is, he says, pacing, it's a seed, I think, a seed left behind to grow. Like a note of glimmer, or the idea strikes him as a thunderbolt, or a tripwire, bait to attract those who seek out to destroy what they don't understand. Bait for guardians, bait to mark some milestone in the traveler's recovery. I told you never to go there, Mara says, her eyes burn. She draws her cloak tight. Are you not devoted to me? Sister, he says, of course I am. Yet you defy me. Yes, Aldrin thinks. Yes, aren't those the same thing? How could you care at all for something that never surprises you? He feels suddenly, utterly alone. So we can see from that card that Aldrin says it gives the Vex something they crave. Also, it could have been a seed left behind to grow, or a tripwire baiting those who want to destroy it but don't understand what they're destroying. Now right after that, he said bait to mark some milestone in the traveler's recovery, so perhaps with us destroying the Black Heart, the darkness realizes, hey, the traveler's recovering, it's becoming more powerful, and it may have sort of been just like a test. Now we've always known the Black Heart was linked to the darkness, but exactly how has been unclear. This may shed a little bit of light, saying it was a seed left by the darkness to grow and devour, but as for the story in Destiny 1, we were told we needed to take out the Black Heart, and it was simple. With this thing the Black Heart destroyed, it would restore light to the traveler and allow it to heal, which of course it did.
Find the Black Garden. Rip out its heart. Only then will your traveler begin to heal.
Throughout the history of Destiny, many different scholars and warlocks have theorized on what exactly the Black Garden was. One of these was Pujari. Now before I read what he says about the Black Garden, he also has a line in the Darkness card. It says, "The Pujari position describes darkness as a force with both physical and moral presence, an actualization of evil." Pujari art depicts the darkness as a great storm, or as a change in conduct, a corruption that emerged from within and poisoned the Golden Age. So this character has experienced and theorized a lot, and it wasn't just in the Black Garden, it was stuff, bigger than that with the darkness, so I thought that was interesting to share as well. But back to the card, he says this: "I am Pujari, these are the visions I have had of the Black Garden. The traveler moved across the face of the Iron World. It opened the earth and stitched shut the sky, it made life possible. In these things there is always symmetry. Do you understand? This is not the beginning, but it is the reason. The garden grows in both directions. It grows into tomorrow and yesterday. The red flowers bloom forever. There are gardeners now. They came into the garden in vessels of bronze and they moved through the groves and rivers of thought. This is the vision I had when I leapt from the shores of time and let myself sink. I walked beneath the blossoms. The light came from ahead and the shadows of the flowers were words. They said things, but I will not write them here. At the end of the path grew a flower in the shape of a ghost. I reached out to pluck it and it cut me with a thorn. I bled and the blood was light. The ghost said to me, 'You are a dead thing made by a dead power in the shape of the dead. All you will ever do is kill. You do not belong here. This is a place of life.' The traveler is life," I said. "You are a creature of darkness. You seek to deceive me." But I looked behind me, down the long slope where the blossoms tumbled in the warm wind, and the great trees wept sap like blood or wine, and I felt doubt. When my ghost raised me from the sea, there was a thorn cut in my left hand, and it has not healed since. So that was a very cool story. Pujari basically let himself drown at the shores of time, which is a Crucible map from the first game and also a remake in Destiny 2, and he had these visions of the Black Garden. He says that the traveler came to this iron world, or Mars, and was not the reason the garden was created, but could have been a reason it came into existence. For example, because of what the traveler did, it may have allowed this place to sort of spawn. He also explains how there were gardeners who entered this world in vessels of bronze and moved throughout the groves and rivers of thought. Now, we've always theorized this to be the Vex, and it kind of makes sense if you ask me. Rivers of thought could be the Radiolaria, and then of course the bronze description. Now, regarding the location of the Black Garden, that is a little bit tricky. In Destiny 1, we accessed this garden through a gate on Mars near the Valley of the Kings. This was because this realm was locked away on a separate plane by the Vex, and they wanted to make sure they can keep it safe. So essentially it didn't exist in space or time, and it was sort of floating out there somewhere in between. So us entering this portal allowed us to be well ported over there, and that's how we entered it.
I hope this works. Where are we? If this is the Black Garden, it's not on any map of known space and time. I guess we just keep going?
But after the campaign and closer to the Taken King, we learned that this place was sort of bolted into space and time and was connected to Mars. This was explained in one of the new missions where we see the new entrance in the Tharsis Junction.
Temporal energy, strands of darkness, Vex circuitry.
The Black Garden? We had no idea this entrance existed. Guardian, there are Vex among the Taken. They may know how to reform the heart.
So just a little side note before we move on, I was watching some of the ride-alongs and specifically the Mars one for this video, and Bungie described how the Black Garden was originally supposed to be placed in a place like the Tharsis Junction. It was supposed to be on Mars behind a wall, but they didn't really think it was cool enough. So eventually towards when the game shipped, which we see now, the portal was put in the Valley of the Kings, and then it ports you somewhere else. But they did sort of keep the idea, in future missions with the Taken King, which is pretty interesting.
Originally, the Black Garden Gate was going to be underground in the subway system, and that's where we're going to put it. And it wasn't quite as epic, and it just didn't kind of jive. And if you go to Mars Transit Black Garden Entrance B, you can kind of see, while it's compelling and it's really cool and it's mysterious, like, there's some really neat elements to it, but it just wasn't as cool of a feature as it could have been. So we started looking across Mars, like where are we going to put the Black Garden Gate? Should we put it back in the very beginning in planes? So as soon as you land, you see this thing, and you're always kind of going around it, but you don't know what it does, and eventually you're like, oh wow, it opens up and I can go through it. But we ended up putting it in Valley because it was just the real estate was right there for it, and it was a good spot to be able to showcase all the cool stuff that it does.
So the garden did move after we defeated the Black Heart and the place kind of sank into darkness, but what's up with it now, and can we go back there? During the events of Destiny 2, the Red Legion invaded the solar system. Although most of their fleets were focused on wiping out Earth and stealing the Traveler, many other splinter groups made their way to various planets, and this included a major Cabal territory from the first game, Mars. They tracked the last Cabal soldier from the place of carnage, onward through the flower fields following the dribble of black oil that escapes the wounded legionary's pressure tourniquet. Aldrin moves with cold, vicious anger. War here in the garden, petty, detestable war brought into this place by some blundering Cabal expedition. They deserved what they got. The garden must be left to tend for itself, mustn't it? It must be allowed to evolve its secret fruits. So as far as we know in Destiny 2, the gate to the Black Garden was destroyed, or at least the one we see in the Valley of the Kings. Now it is unsure if there are other ways to enter this specific Black Garden, if the Vex can even get in here anymore as well, but there is definitely a lot of mystery that surrounds it. So something else that will blow your mind is the fact that it seems there are other Black Gardens out there. We don't know how powerful or how much of a threat these gardens are, but it definitely makes you wonder what the heck is going on there.
If I'm reading this right, there are other gardens, like Black Garden gardens. I couldn't tell if they were being built or were already destroyed. What does it mean?
But Guardians, that's all I got for today's video. I was thinking about video ideas and I was like, hey, what's up with the Black Garden? Is there anything new on that in Forsaken? And it turns out there's actually a lot. There's at least 4 or 5 Grimoire cards, some were explained throughout this video and the others where Aldrin and his friend visit the Black Garden, so I figured I'd bring you some of those stories and keep you up to date on what's going on with that whole situation. But let me know down below what other mysteries you'd like to see in future videos, and I thank you very much for watching. Anyway, my name's Evade and I'll catch you Guardians in the next one.